Winter vegetables are so valuable to us. They give us harvest during December, January and February. And if you've not yet grown vegetables for a winter harvest, in today's video I'm going to give you my 6 must-grow vegetables for a winter harvest. Sprouting broccoli arrived in England in the 1700s, and it was originally called sprout cauliflower or Italian asparagus. They can give a 6 to 8 week harvest. They can be frozen, but are best eaten fresh, and they will store in the fridge for 3 days. I put a poll out on Friday, which many of you responded to, and we do thank you for that. And I said, if you could grow a vegetable for the winter harvest period, what would you actually grow? I have to say, I thought that this crop here, purple sprouting broccoli, may have come somewhere near the top of the poll. Actually, it's right down at the very bottom. But let me tell you, purple sprouting broccoli is a really, really valuable vegetable to have. The ones that are nearest to me is a variety called Rudolph, and that's coming ready now. We'll be harvesting this in the next week or so. In fact, myself and Mrs. W, we will have Rudolph on our plates for Christmas Day.
Oh yes, can't wait. Not long now.
But then you can get varieties like the other side. We have a variety called Claret, and Claret won't give us a harvest until the end of March, April through into May. The positives of growing this is that when it harvests, it gives you a good 6 to 8 week period of harvest. So long as you keep picking those spears, you'll get that harvest. If there is any downside to growing purple sprouting broccoli, well, it's in the ground for many months. Both these varieties actually went into the ground in July. And in the case of Rudolph, as we said, that will be, well, it's beginning to harvest now. So we'll be harvesting this December, second half of December, all the way through January and February. And the other variety, that's end of March, April and through into May. And you can get other varieties where it doesn't actually give its harvest till February. So in theory, if you grew 2 or 3 different varieties, you could be eating purple sprouting broccoli for, well, from December all the way through to May. But the most important thing about purple sprouting broccoli is that when you see it's ready, you pick it. You cut the stems and you eat it. And of course, for the variety Claret, what is that most valuable for? Well, it's going to give you a harvest in April and May, which we all know as the hungry gap, when there's not too much fresh that you can pick. So yeah, purple sprouting broccoli, a really, really valuable vegetable to grow during the winter period. Cabbage has been around for the last 1200 or so years. Red cabbages first appeared back in 1150 and Savoy cabbages 1543. They are a wonderful vegetable as a standalone vegetable to eat with your meals. Myself and Mrs. W, we really like a lovely tasty coal cannon. Cabbages also are a really valuable winter harvest. At the moment it's somewhere third in our poll that we put out there, and actually I can't really argue with you. So avoid cabbages in particular that are grown at this time of the year, although myself and Mrs. W actually grow them all of the time. We grow them all through the year because that's the kind of cabbages that our family likes. But they are the most hardiest of cabbages, and they will stand during the winter. You can see just how large these have got, and they will continue to grow away really slowly. The ones we have over in plot 3, they've actually been ready now since October, haven't they? And they're still there. We shall be using those during this month, during December and into January. These ones, I hazard a guess, we'll be harvesting these sometime during late January and February. Kale first found its way to the UK back in the 1600s. It is a wonderful vegetable that can be served again as a standalone veg, but also great stir-fried and also used in salads. Absolutely wonderful vegetable. It gives you harvests from, well, we've been harvesting this in September. Still going, you can see it looks absolutely lovely. Really does. Hello, Zilla. You take the youngest leaves, you can see where we've been taking them. We can see the little nodules where we've taken the leaves. It's been giving us some absolutely amazing harvest, and it will continue to do so. The one thing you don't want to do is ever strip it of its leaves. Always leave leaves on there. And it will continue producing these lovely young shoots. And you'll be able to continue eating this wonderful kale. This, by the way, is dwarf curly kale. All the way through until March of next year. Now the Bible mentions the leek. Leeks can be boiled or steamed or sautéed. They can be cooked in casseroles, and they're absolutely fantastic in soups. You know, leeks I absolutely adore. They have a brilliant harvest window from October all the way through to the following March. And they give such great harvests. Gorgeous onion smell, Mrs. W. We've grown two types this year. Grown Portobello, and we've also grown Winter Giant. Winter Giant have been really good, haven't they?
We have.
We've always liked the Portobello, and we'll always continue to grow them because they become ready and available to harvest just that bit earlier, from October time. And in this small space here, I originally planted 80 leeks. You can see we're not even halfway through them yet. So they will continue to give us harvests all the way through the rest of this year, and as I say, right up to March. So if you haven't grown leeks before, then do give them a try. I was actually surprised that in the poll that we conducted back on Friday, these actually came bottom.
They're one of my favourites.
I know, and mine too. They stand in the ground. The weather doesn't really affect them. And you can also do so much with them. Indeed, you could, depending on variety that you sow, you could be harvesting leeks from September all the way through to the following March. So one of the vegetables that I would never want to be without is leeks. Parsnips were thought to have originated in the Mediterranean. In Europe they were used as animal fodder originally. They were also used as a sweetener until sugar beet came along. In Italy, pigs are fed the best quality parsnips to produce the best Parma ham. Parsnips can be cooked as chips, they can be roasted, they can be grated into salads and also added to casseroles. Well, they sort of fell out of favour a few years back. People saying they didn't like the taste. They probably didn't know too much about parsnips and what a wonderful vegetable it was. Indeed, many years ago, as we said earlier, it was a vegetable that most of our ancestors ate. But it is starting to come back. And actually, this vegetable is also reflected in our poll that we did. Because it actually came top. Most of you said
Did
if
it?
there was... Yeah, it did, yeah.
I didn't know that.
If there was one vegetable that you could grow over the winter period, it would be a parsnip. And you do get a lot of value from a parsnip. Here's one of ours. Who's it said that you can't grow parsnips in no-dig soil? Well, you can. Lovely example of a parsnip. And actually, these parsnips, you know, they will give you several meals when there's, if you're like us, there's just myself and Mrs. W. You can cut this off here. That can be used in a casserole. The top piece here we can then chop up and do some lovely roast parsnips.
My favourites.
In fact, on the poll, somebody said on there, you know, what about, you know, some lovely honey roast parsnips? Oh, how right were they? While I'm here, Mrs. W, I'm going to take another one because I know we've got a bit of cooking to do. This one's a bit smaller, as you can see, but it was actually right next to this one.
It was when I thinned them, because I think it was me who thinned them to what should have been one plant. I think I must have left an extra one in, but never mind. It does go to show that you can actually probably multi-sow them if you wanted.
Yeah,
Although that isn't something we ever do, is it? We usually...
No. Or at least we try not to.
Well, we put in 3 seeds, so technically we multi-sow them, but we usually thin it to 1, not 2.
So yeah, parsnips. They do benefit from a bit of frost. They do make them a bit sweeter. But they are an absolutely valuable harvest for this time of year. And they give you plenty of food to eat. Brussels sprouts first came to England in the 1800s. They're great as a standalone veg. You can stir fry them, and they can also be grated into salads. Next is Mr. Sprout. And I have to say that in our poll, Mr. Sprout actually came second. Not really too surprised about that, because sprouts are absolutely amazing. They're a fantastic vegetable to grow and have for a harvest during winter. They stand in the ground for a very, very long time. These sprouts that you see here have actually been available for us to harvest since November, the beginning of November. And indeed we have had 1 or 2, haven't we?
Or 3 or 4, or maybe more.
And you can see there are still plenty there for us to have. The other great thing about sprouts is that if you get the right varieties, you can actually be harvesting sprouts from September all the way through to March of the following year. This particular variety that we grow is called Broody, and as I say, it's generally ready every year from November, and depending on how much we actually eat over the Christmas period, it'll still be here and available for us to eat next February. So it's quite a long harvesting period. Have a great gardening week, and we shall see you on the next one.